So hello everyone and welcome. This session is a first glimpse of the information and resources needed to carry out your new role as VISTA Project Director. My name is Molly Pelzer, and I'm a Management Analyst at AmeriCorps VISTA with the Corporation for National and Community Service in Washington, D.C.
Hi everyone, I'm David Cheney, and I'm a State Program Officer with the Office of Field Liaison with the Corporation for National and Community Service. I'm located in Santa Fe, New Mexico. While this information is most relevant for VISTA project directors, we have designed this course so that everyone involved in the management and oversight of the VISTA project will gain valuable knowledge from reviewing this content. We recommend that VISTA project directors, project and site supervisors, and authorized representatives all watch this content so your organization is fully prepared to manage a VISTA program. We'll also be joined by CNCS State Office and VISTA Training Unit colleagues to assist with Q&A. Molly, can you tell us what we'll cover today?
I would be happy to do that. Thanks, David. So this session will focus on key pieces that will give you the initial information you need to ensure your success as a VISTA project. We'll cover the big picture, an overview of CNCS and the core principles of VISTA, core responsibilities, your responsibilities relating to VISTA member support and project management, keys to success, tips, training, tools, and resources that are available, and where to get support, when, where, and how to access the support that is in place. This orientation is an introduction to tools and resources to help you understand the national service basics, what programs do we oversee, understanding the chain of communication, project management responsibilities, member management responsibilities, understanding government documents, and also thinking about what success looks like. So let's begin with the big picture. During VISTA 101, you already learned about VISTA, its mission to empower communities to find solutions to eliminating poverty, and how VISTA members build capacity. If you have not completed VISTA 101 and 201, please refer to the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. Now let's take a minute to discuss a few key principles that are central to the VISTA program. The Corporation for National and Community Service, CNCS, improves lives, strengthens communities, and fosters civic engagement through service and volunteering. As the nation's largest grant maker in support of service and volunteering, CNCS engages Americans of all ages and background in service to their communities each year through Senior Corps, AmeriCorps, and other programs. The Corporation for National and Community Service engages more than 5 million Americans annually in improving communities through service. CNCS supports service at national, state, and local levels with a variety of service opportunities. Individuals who are 55 and older can serve with Senior Corps and join RSVP or the foster grandparents or senior companion programs. AmeriCorps was founded in 1994, and over 1 million members have contributed over 1 billion service hours across America. As you can see, there are 3 different AmeriCorps programs: AmeriCorps State and National, AmeriCorps NCCC, and AmeriCorps VISTA. CNCS state offices administer the VISTA and Senior Corps programs with your support. Let's talk about how VISTA started. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson declared a war on poverty and signed the Economic Opportunity Act. The act created Volunteers in Service to America, VISTA, and other programs to combat poverty. VISTA is authorized under the Domestic Volunteer Service Act, DVSA, of 1973. The DVSA is a statute, and statutes define the legal boundaries within which the VISTA program may operate. In 1993, with President Bill Clinton's signing of the National Community Service Trust Act, both the Corporation for National and Community Service and the AmeriCorps programs were established. The National Community Service Trust Act also merged several national service programs, including VISTA, to be part of AmeriCorps. The Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act of 2009 reauthorized and expanded CNCS's national service programs. Your projects were selected because they demonstrate a substantial connection to VISTA's mission, objectives, and principles. As you know, VISTA's mission is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty through volunteering and the mobilization of resources. VISTA is the only AmeriCorps program exclusively focused on fighting poverty. VISTA also has 3 specific objectives of the program: to strengthen local agencies and organizations to carry out the purpose of the program, to encourage volunteer service at the local level, to generate the commitment of private sector resources. As you can see, VISTA's objectives directly support building capacity. Finally, there are the core principles that shape everything AmeriCorps VISTA does. It's the anti-poverty focus, community empowerment, capacity building, and sustainable solutions. And remember, your VISTA projects were selected because they demonstrate a strong connection to these core principles. Let's review some key definitions and terms. Remember that this information is based on VISTA's authorizing legislation, and it's important to understand how each role is identified. So project or VISTA project means a set of VISTA activities operated and overseen by a sponsor. Sponsor, project sponsor, VISTA sponsor, or VISTA project sponsor means a public agency or private nonprofit organization that receives assistance and is responsible for operating and overseeing a VISTA project. A public agency may be a federal, state, local, or tribal government. Project director or VISTA project director means a staff person of the sponsor who has been assigned by the sponsor the overall responsibility for the management of the VISTA project. Project directors are responsible for executing all aspects of the project as outlined by the sponsor. Supervisor is an individual who directly supervises a VISTA member. This can be at the project level or at a site subrecipient level. Project sponsors are responsible for ensuring all member supervisors are trained. It's important to note that some project directors are also supervisors. CNCS State Office, or CSO, the Corporation for National and Community Service, CNCS, has field staff working throughout the United States. There are CNCS state offices representing all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the U.S. territories. Some offices are responsible for multiple states and territories. So let's talk about how CNCS state office staff can provide you with outreach, program development, technical assistance, monitoring, and evaluation in support of your VISTA project. David, can you come back on and please tell us about the CNCS state office?
Sure. Thanks, Molly. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. By now, you should be familiar with your CNCS state office. Your CNCS state office manages the AmeriCorps VISTA, as well as senior corps programming for their state. For VISTA projects, the CNCS state office helps develop, support, and facilitate VISTA projects throughout their life cycle. They are there to sing your praises and help you through challenging times. They're available to assist you with member emergencies, troubleshooting, and discuss policy questions. They also can support you by connecting you to resources and training tools for you and your members. The CNCS state office also plays an important role with regards to member approval and removal. Only CNCS can approve members for service. The CNCS state office carefully reviews all applicants that you recommend for VISTA service to ensure they're a good fit for the program. Likewise, CNCS is the only authority that has the power to remove a member from service. This is one of the reasons why it is critically important for you to update your CNCS state office early and often when it comes to member issues. We'll talk more about the importance of documenting member performance and actions later. Let's talk about your members. As you know, VISTA service is a 12-month, full-time, 35 to 40 hours a week commitment where VISTA members engage in indirect service to build capacity and sustainability with programs that work to alleviate poverty. Remember, VISTAs are members. They are not employees, interns, or volunteers with the sponsoring organization. VISTAs serve at their sponsoring agency. They do not work there. VISTAs receive a modest living allowance that aligns with the community they are serving. It It is imperative that you work closely with your CNCS state office on how to best manage and support your VISTA members. Members will have questions on a variety of topics, and the topic of their question may depend on how far into their service term they are. Members who are about to start service might have more questions about the amount of their living allowance, as well as when and how it's paid. Don't forget to fully explain to members benefits and address some of these topics while interviewing those top quality candidates. You want to be sure that all members carefully and correctly complete their W-4 and direct deposit information. Members should keep their direct deposit information updated, since they may change banks if they relocate for service, so they can receive their living allowance and any travel or emergency reimbursements. And remember, sponsors are required to reimburse members for any service-related travel that is required of them. Newer members may also have questions about how to request forbearance on their education loans, or how the cash stipend differs from the education award, or how even the education award can be used. Members later in their service might need more information about how non-competitive eligibility works, or when they'll be able to access their verification of service letter. It is ultimately the VISTA member's responsibility to understand the details around these topics, including knowing which benefits may apply to them and knowing what actions they must take to utilize them or where to find them. However, you will also want to know the details around them so you can support your VISTA members and inform candidates during recruitment. The VISTA Campus Benefits Hub is the first place to go for information about member benefits. The VISTA Member Handbook has important information and guidance regarding these topics and more. Be sure to reference that, as well as the VISTA Sponsor Handbook and the Resource Guide for links to more detailed guidance. VISTA members can also contact the VISTA Member Support Unit for benefits questions that cannot be answered on the VISTA campus. I'll hand it back to Molly to shift gears and talk about core responsibilities. Molly?
Thanks, David, for walking us through those very important member topics. So as a sponsor, you have joined VISTA sponsors from across the nation in the mission of fighting poverty in your community. Your role is really important to the success of the project and the members, and ultimately the impact on the poverty in your area. Every VISTA project is accountable for the responsibilities we will outline, but each sponsor may assign these responsibilities as appropriate within the organization and project. It's the sponsor's responsibility to ensure that all subsites are in compliance with VISTA policies and procedures. Let's look at member management. A successful VISTA project starts off with a strong and effective recruitment plan. At a minimum, this includes creating solid VISTA assignment descriptions, or VADs, which guide VISTA members in their service throughout the year. Drafting catchy and honest opportunity listings to announce your position and attract top quality candidates, as well as recruiting, screening, interviewing, and recommending the best candidate for service. Strong sponsors also provide an in-depth on-site orientation and training, or OSOT, to all incoming VISTA members at the beginning of their service, and ongoing training, which include professional development opportunities. And it's probably no surprise that the best projects offer day-to-day supervision and support of their members. This includes confirming that members have the space, supplies, and equipment necessary to carry out their service, providing reasonable accommodations to members who request them based on different abilities, and ensuring that members' activities are in line with their BADs. Even the best-run projects have member issues bubble up, so please don't be disappointed if things get a little tricky. The important thing is to manage those member issues appropriately, and this means addressing member issues as they arise, informing the CNCS state office early of issues, documenting all discussions, tracking performance, and keeping on top of the situation. And remember that only CNCS may remove members from your project, and only CNCS may terminate members. So your documentation of member issues and discussing them with the CNCS state office is really important. In terms of timekeeping, consider developing a system to track VISTA members' use of personal and sick leave. In addition to the 10 medical and 10 personal days, VISTA members are entitled to most holidays observed by your organization, but seasonal breaks should be discussed with your state office. And data management. Have your member track what they accomplish. This will certainly help ensure that you have accurate data when it comes time to report on performance measure topics. And as a reminder, the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide is a comprehensive list of resources to help you successfully manage members. In addition to the topics mentioned on the last slide related to performance and member management, the following activities are allowed but must be approved in advance. With prior approval by the state office and the sponsor, members are allowed teleservice, which means serving at a location other than their project site for limited duration. They may also be approved to hold outside employment and also possibly attend educational courses. However, even though these activities are allowed, the VISTA member must request this through you, the project director, and then have it approved through the CNCS state office. The CNCS state office is always thinking about what's best for the project, and the CNCS state office does have the ability to deny requests that may interfere with the VISTA member's service or interfere with the project. To be safe, you should consult with your CNCS state office if any changes are made that impact or will impact the project, subsites, or members. This could mean a change with project personnel and supervision of members, or it could mean that due to emerging community needs, a VAD must be tweaked to better support alleviating poverty in your community. Regardless, it's always a good idea to check in with your CNCS state office, and the sooner they know about these shifts, the more support they'll be able to give. Prior to service, VISTA members must complete the online Terms and Conditions course that details what's provided and allowed to members during VISTA service. If a member violates one of the terms or conditions, you, the supervisor, need to contact your CNCS state office immediately. Different violations have different repercussions, and for the protection of the project and any other members on board, it's really critical to act promptly. With criminal activity, VISTAs and VISTA sponsors must report any criminal activity that occurs while in service to their CNCS state office. And engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services, or engaging in any form of proselytizing during service is prohibited. And prohibited political activity. This is politics with a capital P. Engaging in partisan political activities while in service, such as engaging in fundraising for a partisan political campaign at any time, or advertising oneself as a VISTA while engaging in partisan political activity are all prohibited. The Hatch Act is a federal law that was first enacted in 1939. VISTA members are considered federal employees for a few limited purposes, including the Hatch Act. And the Hatch Act ensures that federal employees and VISTA members do not participate in political activity prohibited under the Hatch Act. VISTAs can also not be involved in voter registration as part of their VISTA service. They can participate in voter registration if it is not part of VISTA service, and they would just need to be sure to do it on their own time, not in VISTA gear, and while not identifying as a VISTA member. In general, VISTAs cannot engage in political activity, religious activity, lobbying, or union organizing as part of their service or while perceived to be a VISTA member. They can go to rallies or attend church services on their own non-VISTA time, but cannot engage in either type of activity while serving or while identifying as a VISTA. Also, whether during their service or on their own time, VISTAs are prohibited from fundraising, soliciting money for partisan political campaigns. However, they may personally donate to a partisan political campaign. Moving on to supplanting staff, members shall not perform duties that should be done or are typically done by paid staff or contractors of the organization. And with nepotism, we ask that you avoid the actual or appearance of favoritism in the operation of a VISTA placement. A VISTA member cannot be placed or assigned to a VISTA project site if the VISTA member is in the immediate family or close relative of a project site staff member, or vice versa. And direct service. The role of VISTA is building capacity to bring communities out of poverty, and members do not perform direct service activities, except if needed during training or if doing so is merely incidental to performing their VAD. For example, a member might design a school curriculum, but should not be the one regularly teaching children with the curriculum. Rather, the VISTA member would recruit volunteers for that purpose. So if you'd like more information or a full description of prohibited activities, please visit Chapter 15 of the VISTA Member Handbook on the VISTA campus. And David, would you like to join us again and review some of the core responsibilities related to project management?
Sure. Thanks, Molly. And hello again, everyone. Let's dive into core responsibilities for project management. It's probably no surprise that all sponsors must follow the requirements and policies set forth in the Memorandum of Agreement. Your organization has entered into a legal agreement with the Corporation for National and Community Service. All projects must have an anti-poverty focus. All project activities from the application to the VAD should tie back to alleviating poverty in your community. And if your project is already underway, you might be responsible for the project continuation. Be sure to submit a continuation application 90 days before expiration of the Memorandum of Agreement. If your VISTA project operates at more than one site, you are required to have a Memorandum of Understanding or MOU with each of your subsites. Additionally, it is important that you have continued partnership development throughout the life cycle of your grant. Depending on your agreement with CNCS, you might also be responsible for activities related to cost share. If you have questions about your agreement with CNCS, access the agreement in eGrants or talk to your CNCS state office. But everyone is responsible for reporting in some way. So let's spend a little more time talking about reporting requirements. Each VISTA project submits a set of reports to help us review project progress. The information you provide in these reports demonstrate your project's impact, demonstrate resource management, and allows us to provide you better technical assistance. All projects are required to submit sponsor verification forms, VISTA Progress Report Supplement, VISTA Project Progress Report, and Future Plans forms. Only projects that have a program or support grant have to submit a Federal Financial Report or FFR. If you have questions about your agreement with CNCS, access the agreement in eGrants or talk to your CNCS state office. Every 2 weeks, you will submit a sponsor verification form. This helps us track which members are still actively serving at your project so we can prevent member overpayment. This information also ties in directly to VISTA member payroll for standard VISTA projects. Set reminders for this report. And if you're going to be out of the office, determine who's going to submit this report on your behalf. For those sponsors with VISTA leader positions, this should not be a VISTA leader. The Project Progress Reports, or PPRs. For the first year of your project, these are generally done on a quarterly basis. Each report should build on one another. Check with your CNCS state office and in eGrants for more details on due dates, depending on your project year, because after your second year, PPRs are typically semi-annual. That transition is at the discretion of the CNCS state office, though. The PPR information will be part of your project's official record and will be used to evaluate a project's continuation. If you have questions on what you should include, I'll refer you to the PPR instructions in the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. If you are a project with multiple sites, you'll need to establish a way to aggregate information between members serving at those sites. Don't wait until your progress report is due to ask a question or to share a member's impact. We definitely encourage you to share information with your CNCS state office as it happens. That way, our offices can help share your successes and coach you through challenges as they come. Next up is the VISTA Progress Report Supplement, or VPRS. This is an annual report that tracks demographic information for your project. This report is typically due late in the calendar year and is based on our agency's fiscal year, October 1st of one year, such as 2019, through September 30th of the next, 2020. This means you'll likely have to track information with your members on a monthly basis to accurately submit this report. You can find instructions on how to complete this report in the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. Remember, you must complete a Future Plans Form, or FPF, for every member at the end of their term of service. The member completes the first part, Part A. Then you will submit Part B, which evaluates the member's service. We recommend you coordinate with the member's supervisor if you are not directly supervising this individual. The member then has the opportunity to review your comments. For that reason, we also recommend that you host an exit interview, so the member is aware of what you're entering for their review. Once those two sections are complete, it comes to the CNCS State Office for review. In terms of the federal financial report for program or support grants, there is additional reporting requirements like the FFR. Make sure to connect with your CNCS State Office for more information on what is required of your specific grant, and loop in the fiscal staff at your organization as appropriate. If you don't have a program or support grant, you don't need to worry about it. If you have a cost share agreement, cost share invoices are payable upon receipt. You'll receive them on a monthly basis through eGrants. Okay, I'd like to share a few tips about these reports and forms. We recommend you complete these forms early in the process. It can help you manage member recruitment and ties in directly to member and alumni benefits, specifically accessing the Education Award. For example, if a member wants to re-enroll or extend their service, then you should document how they've successfully supported your project and accomplished activities on their VAD and rate them accordingly. This will help the CNCS State Office evaluate your and their request and compare it to our budget. If a member needs to leave their service early or terminate their service, the CNCS State Office can unlock the Future Plans form. However, the request to release this form should not be the CNCS State Office's first notification of that member will be terminating their service. Please bring your CNCS State Office into the conversation early so that we can help you troubleshoot any potential issues. I know this was a lot of information to absorb, so again, if you have questions, reach out to your CNCS State Office. You've heard us talk about working with your CNCS State Office quite a bit already. Another core responsibility is to share the good, the bad, and the ugly with your CNCS State Office by communicating openly. You position them to best support you. There are some things that CNCS State Office needs to hear about promptly, rather than when your progress report is submitted. Be sure to alert your CNCS State Office of major accomplishments and events, such as new grant awards, visits from elected officials, and press coverage as they happen, rather than waiting for the next progress report. Your CNCS State Office will want to hear about and spread the word of your success. Also notify them promptly of major emergencies such as member hospitalization or arrest, members being AWOL, and member early termination, as well as any acute or chronic challenges with members such as performance or conduct issues. Your CNCS State Office is here to support you and needs to be up to date on your project status in order to do that effectively. Communicate with them about proposed changes to your project goals and member activities, any changes to VAD activities, as well as shifts in staff, supervision, or organization status. You'll also want to share information about your VISTA project with your communities and networks. Acknowledge the resources you receive by identifying AmeriCorps VISTA members as such and listing AmeriCorps VISTA as a funder of your organization in your materials. Keep your communities and networks in the loop about your VISTA project to both spread the word on the capacity you're building to help cultivate engagement and promote opportunities to serve with your organization. As a VISTA sponsor, it is your responsibility to comply with all regulations and requirements of the VISTA program. Your CNCS State Office conducts monitoring and compliance activities throughout the life of your project. Site visits are generally conducted by CNCS State Office staff and occasionally headquarters personnel will attend too. Site visits may be informational in nature in order to provide technical assistance, or they might be for general project monitoring. Compliance monitoring visits are always scheduled in advance and are structured. They will likely include interviews with project staff, VISTA members, advisory council members, and community members or beneficiaries. They will include a review of documentation and your procedures. A letter outlining conclusions is shared after the visit. CNCS undertakes these visits to help avoid potential findings related to misuse or mismanagement of federal funds. However, since AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to, and spending money wisely. You'll see that VISTA members also have a role when it comes to regulatory compliance. You should know that we instruct VISTA members who feel they're being asked to do things that are not appropriate for VISTAs to first talk about it with their supervisor. From there, they can talk with the CNCS state office. If the issue isn't resolved, or if they want to remain anonymous, and they believe the matter relates to fraud, waste, or abuse, they can contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General. We already talked about prohibited activities, but we'll review some again because there are a few red flags of which you should be aware of. If VISTA members are being asked to take over the work of staff, say someone who left the organization, that's replacing or supplanting staff and it's not allowed. Or if a VISTA member is mostly doing administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate. Your VISTA service should be to build capacity, not undertaking activities that can be construed as direct service. VISTA members should focus on what's outlined in the VAD, which should tie directly to the overall project plan that was approved by CNCS. If a VISTA member believes they have been subject to illegal discrimination related to their VISTA service, they should immediately contact the CNCS Equal Opportunity Program, which will also be covered a little later. Remember to report concerns immediately to your CNCS state office. They are there to help develop, manage, and monitor VISTA projects, support you in managing your project and your VISTA members, assist with member emergencies, challenging situations, and questions of policy, and support you by connecting you to resources. And with that, I'll pause and take a breath and turn it back to Molly to take us into the home stretch and review keys to success. Molly?
Great. Thanks, David. You deserve that break. So we have indeed given you a lot to think about in terms of core responsibilities. And to ensure you start off on the right foot, we'll share some member and project management keys to success. Here are the top tips for success related to member management. And by now it should be no surprise that ongoing communication with your CNCS state office is critical. Make sure they are aware of any challenges. But let's take a look at a few other items. With recruitment, be sure to start early and be proactive. Take time to locate members that are a good fit, know the member benefits, and understand what it means to live on the living allowance. We also suggest that you invest time to draft compelling opportunity listings to hook the right candidate. Also, be sure to offer professional development and support. Develop a strong on-site orientation and training, and this is really an essential step of setting up VISTAs for a successful year of service. In terms of ongoing support and supervision, it's important to address issues early on. Track time and attendance, avoid direct service and other prohibited activities, and work with your CNCS state office if outside employment, teleservice, or direct service needs to be approved. If you have a leader, be sure to understand the role of a VISTA leader and utilize them to support your members. We also recommend regular meetings with your VISTA members, and don't forget to appreciate and recognize them and their successes and contributions as well. Also, think carefully about close of service. Help your members prepare for their next steps once their service is complete. Let's shift again and look at the top tips for success related to project management. And again, at the top of the list is no surprise, ongoing communication with the CNCS State Office. Remember to reach out to them and tell them about the good and the bad before it gets to ugly. And be sure to operate your projects in accordance with applicable laws, regulations, policies, certifications, and assurances, in accordance with the approved project application, and with the best efforts to accomplish the goals set out for the AmeriCorps VISTA members in the project application. And also in consultation with and involving the people of the communities being served in planning, developing, and implementing the project. All right, so we are ready to provide you with the support that you need in order to be successful. Dovetailing on the keys to success, we want to underscore the importance of establishing communication expectations. One way to avoid unforeseen issues and complications is to establish a solid communication chain. Your top resource will be your CNCS State Office. The CNCS State Office is able to provide a lot of support and also direct you to additional tools and resources. Technical assistance from the CNCS State Office can take many forms. For example, they can provide technical support for things like member recruitment, training, reporting, and the other things that you're responsible for, those core responsibilities. The CNCS State Office can also offer support for you in member management and challenges. For VISTA members and supervisors with questions or concerns, you are the first-line resource. For questions relating to benefits, though, you can also direct your VISTA member to the VISTA Member Support Unit, the VMSU, the Member Handbook, or other resources on the VISTA campus. Depending on how your project is structured, it might be the case that you are the main point of contact for both members and supervisors. If it's a question that you're unable to address, then you would contact your CNCS State Office. Your state office has access to other departments and units at CNCS in the event that they need additional input to assist you. The next slide is an overview of which CNCS resources offer support on some key topics. So this graphic can help you connect the dots on where to find information on a variety of issues and topics. Some of the resources will connect you to people, for example, the CNCS State Office and the National Service Hotline, while other resources are online that we hope you become comfortable with. eGrants, for instance, contains information about your application, VADs, reporting, and other topics, while we also provide various resources available for download and for public. These links and more are available on your VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. In addition to the resources included on the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide, we want to highlight some key contacts and information that we want to be sure you know about. On the top of the list, again, is your CNCS State Office. They are there to help ensure you have the tools, resources, and knowledge you need to lead a successful VISTA project. The VISTA Sponsor Assistance page referenced here should be one of the first places you go because it contains information about recruitment, marketing, fact sheets, and much more. Much of the material available on this page is print ready, and be sure to check it out and download it. The VISTA campus is also filled with helpful tools and resources. You can find the VISTA Member Handbook and soon the Sponsor Handbook, as well as a variety of courses to help you through the life of your project. There is also a forum where you can have a dialogue with other sponsors and supervisors from around the country. Many of the resources highlighted on the resource guide point you to the VISTA campus. Be sure you create a supervisor account on the VISTA campus. Otherwise, you might not be able to access everything referenced on the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. The National Service Hotline offers support to you as well as your members and supervisors. The hotline can help with common eGrants questions, reset passwords, but can also escalate calls to the eGrants help desk. Be sure to keep the eGrants support link handy, but remember that you can also call the National Service Hotline. And the hotline can also escalate calls to the VMSU, the VISTA Member Support Unit. The VMSU can troubleshoot member issues related to the living allowance or relocation payment problems, education award questions, or questions related to benefits. And check out the last two websites mentioned for VISTA gear and swag. pubs.nationalservice.gov is a website where you can find things like posters and brochures. Those resources are free. And on nationalservicegear.org, you can find things like brochures, posters, and other printable publications, as well as branded clothing, pens, etc. Those resources are available for purchase. As we've already mentioned, like all federal agencies, CNCS has an Inspector General whose office is responsible for preventing and detecting waste, fraud, and abuse. If you encounter issues with your project, address them at the sponsor level and, if necessary, your CNCS state office. If the issues are not resolved or if you want to remain anonymous, contact the Office of the Inspector General. The Office of the Inspector General takes all allegations seriously and conducts thorough investigations to ensure compliance with federal regulations and the terms of the VISTA program. VISTA members are protected by VISTA and CNCS from being subjected to discrimination or harassment. You also have an obligation. This applies to everyone that you come in contact with, including VISTA's clients, volunteers, and employees at your service site. CNCS's Equal Opportunity Office is responsible for and charged with reviewing and processing discrimination complaints filed by CNCS service members, including VISTA members. And with that, I will hand it back to David to cover important next steps and wrap us up. David?
Awesome. Thanks, Molly. Well, we hope you learned a lot from reviewing this information with us. Let's review next steps and connect you to resources to answer questions that might have come up during the session. Following this webinar, please notify your CNCS state office that you completed this session. Your CNCS state office will be able to answer your project-specific questions and can review next steps as you continue to learn about VISTA, your project, and your roles and responsibilities. If you are a sub-site supervisor, you will receive project-specific training from your project director. As you prepare to manage a VISTA project, take time to review the resources that have been shared with you and become familiar with the VISTA campus. And finally, be sure to pursue other trainings as directed by your CNCS state office and VISTA. Oh, and don't forget to take our surveys. You are participating in a pilot presentation, so your input is extremely valuable. We will send you an email with a link to evaluate this webinar and follow-up surveys in a few weeks. We hope you'll weigh in. Molly, are we ready for Q&A?
Yep, we sure are. Thanks, David, and thanks to all of you for sticking with us. We know, again, that there was a lot of information in the session, so we're going to take a pause and take some time to answer your questions. We might refer you to your CNCS state office, but if we can help you, we certainly will. We do have some CNCS state office colleagues standing by to answer your questions, so don't be surprised if you hear some new voices. You won't be able to ask any questions over the phone, so our Q&A will be entirely via chat. So we will review the chat to look and see if there's any questions, but please make sure to type your questions into the chat panel, and we'll be sure to read back the responses and also type in what we can. So I guess while we're waiting for some new questions to come in, I'll ask my colleagues who've been monitoring the chat if there's anything that we can discuss to kick us off. Has anything interesting come in?
Sure, Molly. This is Andy. So we've had a couple questions relating to timesheets, and participants have been great in supporting each other and sharing the kind of system that they use. So some of the questions related to the type of record-keeping system, and folks just wondering if there's a particular requirement that they use a specific type of timesheet or tracking system. So maybe if we just talk about that and the flexibility that sponsors have.
Thanks, Andy. Would you like to chime in and respond to that question?
Sure. So with the timesheets we do have, as we mentioned on the chat, there's the templates that are provided in the resource guide, and I just want to give a plug for the AmeriCorps VISTA sponsor resource guide that is provided to you with your learning path that you've received. It's just really helpful to print and keep that handy because there's lots of links to helpful information, and sometimes it gets a little difficult to wade through all of the information that's out there when you really just need the answer you need to. So hopefully this is a really quick reference. But there are templates for the timesheets or time tracking information. As it was noted in the chat too, they were looking for electronic versions. So a lot of times we do look to the sponsors to find the system that they're able to utilize, and oftentimes it is the same system that they use with their employees that they're able to just track and then be able to monitor the leave and that kind of thing. So.
Great. All right. There were a couple of questions related to VISTA members taking educational courses, so going back to school or taking a college class. And so one was around who needs to do the approval. Is it the VISTA supervisor that can give the approval to the member, or do they have to check in with the state office to get that second level of approval? And then the other question related to this was whether or not there's a particular form that has to be filled out.
Thanks, Andy. And hi, everyone. This is Molly. So I know that I chatted back a quick response, and we don't have an official form at this point in time to approve the education courses. It was on the side where it does need to be approved by the CNCS state office, and the state office should definitely be informed. And it's important that the progress and momentum that the VISTA member is able to maintain the progress and momentum on the VISTA project and their VAD responsibilities. But I'd like to ask my colleague Amy from the Wyoming CNCS state office if she has anything she'd like to add to that, because I think she might have also replied as well.
Sure, thanks, Molly. I was just adding in the chat too that while for the courses, it's VISTA members do have to receive approval from their supervisor. It is helpful for the supervisor in the state office to kind of have that check-in about it because we do want to ensure, first and foremost, like you said, Molly, that the VISTA is dedicated to their VISTA assignment description and to the project. And supervisors, you'll know once you get into it a little more that you'll want to ensure that the VISTA members are available when maybe it's for partnership meetings, conferences, different things that you need them to be accessible for. So sometimes having that regular schedule could interfere with their assignment, so it's something to consider. But then on the other hand, a lot of times the VISTA member is taking a course that actually is of benefit to the service that they're doing, and they're able to then bring in a lot of resource and knowledge from the courses that they're taking. And if they're online courses, they're able to work around and not have that schedule that they need to adhere to. So it's just really important to kind of evaluate what is the courses, is it something that's of benefit to the project, especially if it's going to have any kind of regular time that they're dedicated to that. But if it's flexible, it's a little more open-ended. But as with all of these things, it's really helpful the more the supervisor and the state office can be in contact and communication to kind of work through these issues. And then on that note, it also Employment was another one that's very similar with similar to the education, but employment, there is a form and a process that needs approval for that. So the VISTA member completes the form, the supervisor has to review and approve, and then it goes into VISTA headquarters. So.
Right. Thanks, Amy, for sharing that important info about the education courses. And also one other thing to note about employment is that there's some, and we want to make sure that the VISTA member isn't employed or being paid for another job within the sponsor or within the project. So just a couple other things to keep in mind with the employment approvals. So.
Yep. Great point, Molly.
Great. Andy, are there any other questions we should talk about?
I'm not seeing any here at this time, so remember you can use the conversation panel. If you don't see it, there's a little speech bubble icon. If you hover over it, it says I am. It's in the lower left corner of the screen. Click that and you can type in a question. But I think so far we've covered the various questions that are here.
Great. Sounds good. And it looks like just a reminder that we will have a recording of the webinar available, which is great. That will go on the VISTA campus.
And just a reminder, we also posted a copy of the slides as well as a link to the Supervisor VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. So we can send those back out as well by email. To make it easy for folks to connect with those. All right, it looks like we've got a couple more questions coming in. All right, so Janice asks, how does one go about setting up a supervisor account in the VISTA campus? Well, the campus is my responsibility, so Molly, how about if I just take this question? If you go to the VISTA campus, it's vistacampus.gov. In the upper right corner, you'll see a button to log in, and if you click that, you'll see an option to create a new account. And so follow that, go in and put in your information, and you'll see there are a couple opportunities. One is your user type. You'll select VISTA Supervisor, and then further down it'll ask you about your service information. That's where you'll put in the name of the organization where you're working. And again, you'll choose your role as a VISTA supervisor. That's it. There's no approval required, but by doing that, you'll be able to access the discussion forum specifically for VISTA supervisors and be able to connect with other supervisors across the country. All right, we've got a bunch of questions coming in now. So let's see. Leora says, what does income disregard refer to?
Thanks, Andy, and thanks, Leora, for the question. So income disregard is something that affords members who are currently receiving public benefits before they start their VISTA service to be able to maintain those benefits. Income disregard, there's a letter that we provide, and it's available in the My AmeriCorps portal for members after their activation. And so to summarize, it basically states that the income or the living allowance shall not be counted as income towards a member's benefit level. And so if they're receiving the benefits before, the public assistance benefits before they start their VISTA service, they should not have their VISTA living allowance count towards their benefit level. I will pause to see if my colleagues want to add anything to that. Otherwise, maybe we can grab some of those other questions.
Sure. The only thing to point out, and just to emphasize, because people it's confusing and people sometimes get frustrated by it, is the income disregard applies to all public benefits except for SNAP, otherwise known as food stamps. The VISTA living allowance income is counted in determining food stamp eligibility, but for other public benefits, the VISTA living allowance is disregarded.
Thank you, Andy.
Sure thing. Yeah, I think that's it for the questions. We've had folks asking about the copy of the slides and then the resource, the sponsor guide. So again, there is a way you can download them here from within Skype, but we'll also send you links to those so that you can access them even outside of the presentation.
Great. Thanks so much, Andy. And Andy is one of our colleagues in the VISTA training unit that is always ready, willing, and able to help us make sure we have successful webinars. So thank you again to my colleague Amy in Wyoming, David in New Mexico, and all the other ones who are behind the scenes. And I want to thank all of you so much for joining us today. We hope that you feel better equipped to successfully manage your VISTA projects. So again, please be sure to reference the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide and also follow up with your CNCF state office as soon as possible to let them know that you viewed the webinar and joined us today. And very soon you'll receive a brief survey via email. We really hope that you take time to submit responses. We do review all the feedback and use it to improve our sessions. So have a great day, and thanks so much for being part of VISTA. This concludes our session.